Hello and welcome to the State of the Fleet Industry, a weekly video series produced by Automotive Fleet magazine. I'm Mike Antich, editor of Automotive Fleet, and today I'd like to examine what's occurring in the fleet industry for the week of October 10th, 2022. And for this week's episode, I'd like to examine how the labor shortages that exist today throughout the U.S. are impacting companies operating in the fleet market. And here's how one fleet manager assessed the impact of today's labor shortages on end-user fleet operations. So, quote, "Staffing shortages are greatly impacting every step in the fleet process, and it's slowing things down. It's resulting in higher costs and creating frustrated fleet drivers. And these labor shortages are occurring in many industries that support the fleet market, ranging from vehicle transport companies that are coping with an ongoing driver shortage to national account fleet service providers who are struggling to recruit and retain qualified technicians." So here's some more feedback from another fleet manager. Quote, "With a low unemployment rate, the Great Resignation has helped many people get new, higher paying positions. And while this is great, it does create challenges to fill these vacancies from fleet maintenance technicians to administrative roles in fleet departments. There's an overall shortage of help." While fleet managers don't directly manage salespeople or service technicians who operate fleet vehicles, the higher driver turnover does increase fleet costs, as explained by another fleet manager. Quote, "The cost of employee turnover is oftentimes overlooked as a cost to fleet. These costs include the time spent removing the information of one driver and onboarding another driver, to more costly expenses such as detailing vehicles, relocating vehicles, and putting them in storage, or doing state changes if a vehicle is moved from one state to another. Some fleet operations are being impacted more than others by these current labor shortages. And one example are fleets that operate in the last mile delivery operation area and are on the cusp of starting their peak season, which runs from November to January. And here's a quote from one fleet manager in that industry who highlights this concern. Quote, "It's no secret that worker shortages have been affecting the fleet industry, but it promises to get worse. There is already high demand for home deliveries and on-site services, but this will dramatically increase in the coming years. These pandemic-induced labor shortages in the fleet industry nowadays extends deep into many fleet service provider organizations. Fleet managers complain of longer vehicle turnaround due to staffing issues at maintenance and collision repair shops. And as vehicles become more complex and as the industry transitions to EVs, the skill set of technicians will need to increase dramatically." And here's what another fleet manager said. Quote, "There is a huge shortage of techs who have the skills to work on hybrids and electrics. Tomorrow, with more and more hybrids and electrics in fleet service, it will be critical that we have more technicians trained to repair them." The bottom line is that labor shortages are affecting every segment of the fleet industry, especially centralized fleet operations with in-house maintenance facilities, such as those operated by municipalities, delivery companies, and utilities. And this was illustrated in the following comment related to me by one public sector fleet manager. So, quote, "Labor shortages continue to impact my fleet. In calendar year 2023, I don't see this getting any better. Maintenance techs are hopping between shops for small raises or sign-on bonuses and then switching as soon as a new opportunity arises. This is impacting service levels, costs, and morale." So the COVID lockdowns of 2020 and 2021 and the emergence of the work from home business models have created a perfect storm of labor shortages and created a job market that's conducive for employees to jump ship for better opportunities elsewhere. Nowadays, the rule of thumb is if you want a pay raise, the best way to do so is to quit your job and to get a new job elsewhere. And they say on average, these employees realize a 10 to 15% pay increase. But this also means that employees who have remained at their companies are in essence working at 10 to 15% below their market potential. And this hasn't escaped the notice of a lot of employees. So not only is this shortage of qualified technicians at fleet facilities occurring, but there's also a shortage of technicians at dealerships, national account service providers, and body shop chains. And on top of that, all of these businesses are competing with one another for this limited base of skilled employees. The bottom line is that the tech shortage is increasing the pay of highly qualified technicians, especially those working in high cost of living markets. And these higher salaries are being passed on to customers, namely fleets, in the way of increased labor rates. So in addition to the technician shortage, there's also a massive shortage of drivers who operate trucks that require a CDL or a commercial driver's license. Companies such as those in the hauling and towing services area and vehicle transport companies are having trouble retaining and recruiting CDL drivers. This has a dollar and cents impact on fleet operations. For instance, transport companies are having trouble finding drivers, which then contributes to longer order to delivery times. Or at the end of a vehicle service life, there are delays in getting the out of service vehicle to auction, which increases their days to sale, which forces companies to pay for days or weeks of unnecessary vehicle depreciation. And likewise, changing age demographics is also contributing to a shortage of workers due to the large-scale retirement of baby boomers who are exiting the workforce. As more and more baby boomers retire, fleets and other transportation companies are fighting over a smaller hiring pool of workers to drive trucks, work in maintenance bays, or work in logistics terminals. And here's how another fleet manager summarized the situation. So, quote, the fleet industry consists mainly of older professionals. Frankly, I think this presents a challenge to fleet. We are at a critical juncture, and if we don't find ways to interject fresh new faces and ideas, it'll be a bigger problem going forward than it has been in the past. These labor shortages are contributing to an uptick in the outsourcing of fleet services to third-party vendors. So, for instance, companies that have lost key people and are having difficulty finding a suitable replacement are increasingly looking to outsource these functions. And this phenomena was reinforced by one fleet service provider who said, quote, one consequence to today's labor shortages has been a renewed interest by companies in outsourcing fleet management services. And while all of these labor constraints exist in today's low unemployment market, the potential labor pool could increase very quickly in the future if the economy should dip into a recession. So, for instance, the driver demographics in the logistics industry are very similar to those of the workers employed in the construction industry. If an economic downturn becomes prolonged in the construction industry, limiting the start of new jobs, some predict that this will create a migration away from construction and create a new influx of drivers wanting to work in the logistics side of the business. And this has been proven in past recessions. So no one wants a recession, but a recession could serve to make tomorrow's labor shortages less constrictive and potentially expand the labor pool for the fleet industry, especially in recruiting new fleet drivers. So with this as my final observation, I'd like to conclude my State of the Fleet Industry presentation for the week of October 10th, 2022, and I'd like to thank you for watching.